So today's video on how to create a magical home is going to be all about incense. So I'm very sensitive to smell and I'm very sensitive to chemicals. So I don't burn anything that's not natural. And there's tons of incense out there that are synthetic. So I'm going to go over what I use, what my favorite products are, and then I will put some links below if you're interested in any of the items that I use. Okay, so let's start out with the typical incense that you see people burning, where you use one of these, you put the stick of incense here and you light it, and it burns and the ash falls. This brand is, all the ingredients are natural, so when you burn it, I don't get a headache from this, or my sinuses don't get affected. Just make sure you read the ingredients, make sure that everything is natural, 100%. So you might not be able to have your smells like what we're used to, you know, but they are artificial when you're getting vanilla, pineapple, something or another. So just know you don't want to be breathing that in. The one that I burn the most are what I would consider like leaf products is all I can say. So my favorite, of course, we all know of sage. I like the loose leaf sage. This is California white sage. It actually grows wild around here, so I'll be harvesting some soon. But that's what it looks like. I like the clusters because, as you know, if you light a big stick to it's just so huge amount of smoke that you don't need, and it's hard to put it out. So I prefer the clusters. I do right now, I'm currently using Mugwort, and because it doesn't stay lit as much as the sage does, so I do have Mugwort in a stick, and it puts itself out easier than sage, but I will break pieces off and light it that way. It just seems to burn better that way. I also like sweetgrass. This is what sweetgrass looks like. Those are my favorite as far as, I have some pine and some other, and cedar, but they don't seem to really burn that well. I mean, sweetgrass puts itself out pretty well too, but I love the smell of sweetgrass. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about, I have a wood. So everyone knows about Palo Santo. This is Palo Santo. But I'm, really concerned about, because of the influx of incense and burning woods and everything, that the Palo Santo is harvested ethically and sustainably. So Palo Santo should look like this, like dark, almost like bacon striations like that. When it's really light, like I see a lot of it, I'm not so sure those are ethically sourced. And Palo Santo really won't release all the oils until it falls. So it's a fallen tree. So I have seen some videos where they're actually cutting down Palo Santo trees, and that's not how it's ever been done. It's after the tree falls, then it will release the oils. And to cut it into smaller pieces, if you didn't know, they don't cut it into smaller pieces until there's a full moon, because it really expands and releases the oils with a full moon. So makes sense, it has a lot to do with water on the full moon. So yeah, that's a little tidbit if you didn't know about Palo Santo. This wood is extremely sacred. It's extremely expensive. This is called Agarwood. So I burn Agarwood for like really, really powerful ceremonies. Or if I am really, really going deep and an intense, intense ceremony, I will burn Agarwood. And I've even had like an Agarwood ceremony where people come in and they know I'm going to be burning Agarwood. It's extremely expensive. It's difficult to harvest, but this is what Agarwood looks like. Okay, and so another type of incense is tree resin. So I know a lot of people burn frankincense, like stick incense, but this is what frankincense actually looks like. So it is kind of just the sap, if you want to call it, off the tree. And it's crystallized and it's just chipped off, and you burn it, and that's another form of incense. Popular smell. I have a collection of frankincense from different parts of Africa, and they do, depending on the region, they have a different smell. It's really amazing. Another type of incense that you can get, it's a combination of like herbs and resins together. I bought this from a shop here in Southern California. And so it'll look like that. I have another one that I just bought that smells delicious, and she makes them into little balls so you can burn them. And then I also burn, like would be considered like a spice category. I love the smell of star anise, so that's what that looks like. And I will burn this. I'm a black licorice fan. I know not everyone is, but it does smell like black licorice. So it's always an option too. Check online if it's okay to burn certain herbs and things like that. Just, you never know what the off-gassing can cause. And I do want to go over some safer ways to burn these items. So I had this amazing, and I'm sure it's somewhere in storage. It's an electric incense burner, and from me moving a couple times in the last year, I can't find it. And they're not cheap, but I'll put a picture maybe of what it looks like and a link down below. It's really the most efficient way to burn incense, and it's a slow burn instead of a quick setting something on fire or something like that. And the scent just lingers. It's really great. I love electric incense burners. So you see, typical, you can put things in a shell. And the shell does get hot, so I usually have a stand. These are typical stands you can get, and I set the shell in the stand. And so when people are cleansing an area or doing some type of blessing or anything like that, I always like it in a shell, is because you're incorporating the 4 elements. So you have earth, which is whatever you're burning. You have fire, which is the flame you're lighting these with. Air is the smoke. And then to represent water is the shell. So you have all 4 elements here. And so that's why I like using a shell, so I can incorporate all 4 elements. And another safe way to burn. So this is typical. This is from Mexico. This is a censer. So they would put the incense in here, and they would hold it from here, and they would cleanse the space or use this during a ceremony. So I love this. It's a censer. And then most of the time I just use a heat-proof dish. And I don't use the charcoal. Those are those typical inexpensive charcoal briquettes or whatever. They're round. They're extremely carcinogenic when you light them. So I use this brand. I'll put a link below. It's not in English, although there is a little bit of English on there. And these are safe, and they look like this. And lighting them takes a little bit. You have to really work with them, but I hold them with these point nose pliers, and then I light the other end. And sometimes it takes a little bit, so you have to hold the flame and then blow on it, and it'll glow, and you get it going. And then you set them in white ash. And then this helps just so the bowl doesn't get so hot, but it's just beautiful. I love using ash and these tiny briquettes. And so when these burn, they're not carcinogenic like those ones we typically see in all the stores. So that's pretty much what I use, my favorite incense tools. And then people ask me, do you light with matches or lighter? So when, again, I'm super sensitive to smells, and whenever I would light, I usually use these types. There was so much of the sulfur or whatever they're striking the match with, and I just felt like it wasn't good to breathe that in. So I do use a lighter. I think it burns cleaner. And I make my own little covers for my lighters, just so it's not just pure plastic showing, because during my ceremonies I want everything to be natural. So it has a little natural mask on it made of leather. And so that might be something that you may want to do. And so yeah, I do have matches, but I mostly use lighters. Okay, so I think I pretty much covered everything. Just make sure where you're sourcing is ethical. Know a company that knows the chain of custody, where it came from. I get my woods from Floricopia because I know that they know the chain of custody. And Palo Santo, I have another company. It's escaping me right now, but I'll put a link to the company I get Palo Santo for, because they also know the chain of custody there. And I think Floricopia sometimes sells Palo Santo. But, all right, I think that's it. All right, so I will see you on the next video. Thanks, bye-bye.